much or as little as you guys want. So
Sounds good.
all right. I think we're live. I think we're rolling. Guys, talk about Lake of the Ozarks, recap the tournament, talk to these guys. Troy, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. How's it going?
Good, man. Doing well. Trying to recover from the weekend from catching all these small fish, but I'm good. Tyler, man, how are you doing?
Doing good, man.
Good, man. Good, man. Well, let's jump into it. A lot of fish were caught this weekend. A lot of small fish, a lot of buck bass, but it was a good event overall. Tyler, let's start with you, and man, just tell us about tell us about your weekend, and specifically Saturday more than anything right now. But tell us about your fishing and how you did, man.
Yeah, I finished third out of 104 in the MoYak single day event on Saturday, and did 0 pre-fishing. I actually haven't even been in my kayak on a lake for probably the last 3 months. Been busy with the kid and working on some of these baits and stuff that I got going, and so I didn't even plan to take off work. Wasn't even 100% sure if I was gonna be able to fish or not. So 0 pre-fishing, went down. I was like, I'm just gonna tie on what I know works in the springtime at Lake of the Ozarks, and whatever I start getting bit on, I'm gonna lock it in and see how the day goes. And then I wasn't sure if I was gonna fish Sunday or not. It was like basically just see what happened on Saturday. And then once I started throwing the moving baits, obviously, because I knew it was going to be windy that day, and there's quite a bit of stain, but I fished real clean water pretty close to the dam, and I was catching fish right off the bat, but they're all 13, 14 inches, and then I picked a PB&J jig up, actually that croc gator that the new Kyle Hall line threw that around, got a good bite on that. I was like, well, we'll try these next couple docks. Got another pretty quality bite. So then I went like an hour with nothing. I'm like, man, maybe this ain't it. And I finally got it. I got that one more bite, and I was like, okay, we're sticking with it. And then it was lights out pretty much the rest of the day. I just stuck with that jig up at the front corner, shore side corner of the docks, skipping up under cables, and they're in a couple feet of water. All my fish were pretty shallow.
Yeah, man, you had two 18s, which is solid for what those definitely there were some bigger bass caught.
I didn't find any giants, but they were all pretty quality bites. And my wife was coming down for the awards, and she's like, "Should I head down?" I didn't have an 18 yet, and I was like, "No." It's like, "Don't worry about it." Like 2 casts later, caught an 18. I was like, "Oh, maybe," and then caught like one of the 16s. And then, like, right after that, another 18. I'm like, yeah, you can go ahead and head down.
Yeah, man.
And then I think I had that limit right there at, like, noon. And then I just couldn't get anything bigger than that the rest of the day.
So, for some of you guys that don't know, All-American tournament was going on as well. It's a 2-day event. But the cool thing with the All-American is you can catch all 10 of your fish on Saturday if you want. So if you don't want to fish Sunday, you don't have to. Do you remember what you ended up having for day one for the All-American?
I would have won the tournament by like a quarter inch, I think.
That's crazy.
So I didn't even have to fish Sunday. I had 163. I think second was like 162 something.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I went out Sunday just hoping for 2 or 3 real big bites, and that's basically all I was looking for. I caught another 18 and a couple small upgrades. I think I gained like 5 or 6 inches.
That's cool, man.
I definitely didn't think I won it.
I know during the check-in, I know you and Troy and I think who was it that finished second? Corey Jackson. I think all 3 of you guys talked about you guys were throwing jigs. Troy, were you throwing a jig as well?
Yeah, All of my keepers were on a jig. I was throwing a black and blue. It was really muddy up where I was at. Normally I wouldn't have even fished water that muddy, but I got a couple bites and it kept me there. So
What kind of jig were you throwing?
I pour my own, so it was just an Arky style jig. I got out there. We pre-fished a little bit on Friday. Kyle Savner and I were rooming, and so we drove down there Friday and pre-fished way up the Gravois. And it was chocolate milk when we dumped in. And I don't have a motor, so those guys, most of those guys peeled off down the bank and went down around the corner. So I just kind of stuck around there and started fishing some of the boat docks way up the Gravois there, and it was super shallow. The water was low, and it was super muddy. And I didn't think I was in the right spot at all, but I switched over to a black and blue jig. Same deal, just flipping it back behind the docks, under the walkways, under the cables.
Yeah.
And caught a few, just small buck bass on practice. We talked about maybe changing spots for Saturday. And we drove by Lynn Creek before we left, or before we called it a night. And the water was a lot cleaner down there. There was a lot of junk in the water, and that ramp was closed. But the guy who manages that ramp drove up and talked to us for a bit, and was like, "Oh yeah, we might open this in the morning. We might not. I don't know." Here, he gave us his card. Said, "Here, give us a call in the morning." And since it wasn't a sure thing, we ended up just going back up the Gravois. I'm kind of glad we did, because they were just big females moving up all day. I kind of just started doing the same thing where I was catching those bucks, made a few casts out to the end of the docks, and I caught a couple of small ones right off the bat in the morning. Then caught, I think I caught that 18.5, and then a couple minutes later I caught that 21.5, and then a few minutes after that caught that 20. I mean, it was just kind of boom, boom, boom. They're all three right in a row. And so I was like, okay, I'm doing this the rest of the day. It was kind of an unbelievable start. I had those by 8:30 in the morning. I pretty much had a pretty good limit going. So
yeah, you submitted them early too, didn't you?
Yeah, I kind of submitted them all at once. They were going, like I said, it happened so quick. I didn't want to stop to enter anything in. I just kept fishing. So I finally, after it died down for a minute, I stopped and got my fish entered in kind of all at once. My luck, I dropped my phone over the side or something, not get them submitted. But
I was on my way to that boat ramp and turned around and went to where I went.
Yeah, Kyle and I were talking. And I told him, I said, he asked me where to start. I'm like, I don't know, there's fish everywhere in that lake. I mean, I'm just going to flip boat docks no matter where we go. So,
yep.
And that's kind of what I did. I did go out around a corner and threw a spinner bait for a while on some riprap. That wind started picking up, and so I thought that might be something. I didn't get any bites out there. I caught a few small ones on a red crankbait in practice, but I pretty much stuck to that jig. I mean, after that morning bite started, I had that 13.5. I did lose. It had to have been at least a 5-pounder. I mean, it was at least 17, 18 inches that I lost right next to the kayak, kind of in the morning in that flurry that I thought was going to cost me. I was really upset about losing that one. But yeah, it was just, just super muddy water and super shallow. Like the ends of these boat docks I was fishing was only like 3 or 4 feet, and it was just a kind of a big flat.
Yep.
Troy, how many fish do you think you caught? To me, I caught a ton of fish, like ton of buck bass, ton of, I was doing the same thing, but I was fishing a jig head minnow, just up underneath the docks, some in the outer edge. But how many fish do you think you caught all day?
So some of the other guys were saying, I think Corey said that too. He caught a ton of fish. I didn't catch a lot of fish, but the ones I were catching were they were good ones.
Yeah.
I went through a stretch there for a while. I had that 13. I mean, I had 4 good ones, and I had a 13-incher that I just couldn't cull. And I finally culled it with a 13.25. That didn't do me a whole lot of good. And that's kind of where I stood, I think, when the standings went offline. And then I caught that 14.75 just at the end of the day, right before it was done. It kind of bumped me up a little bit more. But I wasn't catching numbers. The bites I did get, I kind of had to work for, but they were quality. When I mean, you tell they were just some females just kind of cruising up there. So,
Tyler, what about you, man?
Go ahead.
What's up?
What about you? How many fish did you catch? A ton of fish, or was it more quality over quantity?
I caught a ton of fish. Like if I was flipping up by a walkway and didn't get a bite, it was weird. Like I got a bite almost every flip. It seemed like I probably caught 40 fish or so.
And what do you guys think? Do you think it was like the females just wanted like a bigger meal or bigger presentation, like with the jig, or do you think they were just like?
I just think those females weren't up yet, where I was at least. I think him being in the muddier water, they probably were a little bit shallower. And I wasn't running any electronics, so I couldn't go looking for them really. So I knew where a bunch of numbers were. I was just hoping to run across a few decent ones. And then when I fished the All-American on Sunday, I just did the exact same thing. And had pretty much the exact same result.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say that the bigger females that I found were just kind of out cruising. I mean, I caught that big one that I caught was between 2 docks. She was just out in the middle. She wasn't even under a dock. I just made a cast while I was going from dock to dock, and she was just cruising out in the middle. So felt like those big females were moving up, but yeah, I wasn't around number. But then again, I fished the same set of docks pretty much all day. I mean, probably the same 20, 30 docks. I don't think I went further than a mile.
Yeah, I had two creek arms that I was hopping back and forth between both days, probably fishing both twice. And all my fish were on the steeper banks. So it was a real steep bank heading down to the dock, and then the docks were real short close to the bank.
And that was gonna be like next question. Did you guys see any like pattern as far as like pea gravel, steeper banks? So like
I tried the shallower stuff with gravel, and I didn't really catch much on them. They were all, and then I went to that other creek arm and tried the deeper stuff because I didn't think they were going to be there. I thought they'd be on that shallower stuff. And then I kind of skipped over a bunch, went to the other one, started catching them. So I went back to where I started, fished the deeper docks, and started catching them. And they're about a third of the way back in those creek arms. I fished all the windblown secondaries and stuff out at the front, and never got a bite.
Yeah, my stuff was just up real shallow. I did notice towards the latter half of the day, I switched trailers on my jig, just mainly because I ran out. I was using a trailer that didn't have a whole lot of action to it in the morning, but I ran out of those trailers and switched to a Taka chunk that flaps a lot. And I noticed I was getting bit as I was reeling in. Yeah. So it was almost like they were looking for something moving there towards the second part of the day. And I switched over to a chatterbait for a bit, and I caught a couple small ones on that. Then switched back to the jig and got a couple more bites off of that. So I don't know. They seemed to want something a little more moving towards the latter part of the day, but all my good ones came on. Like I said, all came off of the jig.
There's a couple real shallow brush piles I'd nose up, and they were kind of right on the other side of the cable, and they were just big bushes. I'd take my jig and flip it up. I didn't want to get snagged on the first cast, so I'd swim it over top of it, just kind of almost swim jig and fluttering it. And I'd watch them. I had like a 17 come up, inhale it. And then Sunday I did the same thing on the same brush pile and had like probably 18 or so, but I lost that one on the cable. But other than that, it was all just fishing a jig normal.
Yep.
A lot of people, were pretty nervous about Saturday and Sunday because there's, tons of boat tournaments going on. There was a high school tournament that had a bunch of boats in it. Troy, did that affect you at all as far as up there in the Gravois, or, did you see a lot of boat traffic?
Not where I was at. I think I was too shallow for any boats to be up there. I where I was at, halfway across the cove, it got to less than 3 foot, and it stayed that way. So yeah, Saturday I didn't really see any boats up where I was at. I saw some other kayakers coming and going. But yeah, I fortunately didn't. I mean, I saw them go down the main channel, but they didn't fish anywhere where I was fishing. So.
What about you, Tyler?
Not anything out of the ordinary. Nothing more than a weekend at Lake of the Ozarks. And I thought being at the dam, I'd be covered up in boats and kayakers the whole time. And I mean, I probably had 12 other guys launch with me, but I ran into like one guy. I don't know where they all went, but. And then I had one boat jump in front of me that didn't see me, and he was real nice, peeled out of there, let me fish. And then I probably ran into 2 or 3 other boats. I seen a couple others fishing. Most of them were hitting the kind of the first main secondaries and all the wind-blown stuff, and they were all throwing moving baits. And I come in with the jig behind them and just clean up. I didn't see one other person throwing a jig.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. You know, I've had good days like that on Lake of the Ozarks where I find 1 or 2 docks and I'm throwing a shaky head or a jig, and seems like it works really well. I mean, what do you guys, as far as like people coming to Lake of the Ozarks and wanting to fish it, I mean, do you guys feel like there's plenty of ramps and whatnot for kayakers to get to and get away from the crowds?
Out of the summer months, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even kayak myself in the summer. Unless I was way up a river arm somewhere.
Yeah, if you can get out and away from the traffic, for sure.
Way too much partying and too much boat traffic. Seems like there's boat accidents every weekend on that lake.
Yeah. I'm kind of interested. Both of you guys, Troy and Tyler, both of you guys, you know, make some baits and whatnot. And Troy, I guess I'll start with you. Like, how'd you get into that, and what made you start doing that?
Jigs for one. I throw a lot of jigs, and I got tired of paying for a lot of jigs. So yeah, I just kind of make them something to do, and I got into airbrushing crankbaits and stuff for a while there too, just something to kind of do over the winter. Get some baits made up for the summertime to roll around. But yeah, I mostly do it just because I can make them exactly the color and the way that I want. It's kind of how I throw. I'll make a handful for some buddies if they want them, but I don't really make them to sell, more or less, just kind of make them for my own use.
Tyler, I know you just got into making some swim baits, and seems like you've had some success with that.
Yeah.
Is it just something you wanted, like kind of the same thing, like you got tired of buying them, or you wanted to make your own?
I knew it probably wouldn't be too cheap to get into making them and buy. I mean, obviously buying them is kind of outrageous, but I kind of just wanted to see if I could do it. And I seen all these guys doing it and how fast they were selling out, and so maybe I can do something like that. And I was like, it don't look too hard. And then almost 2 years later, I'm finally ready to start really selling them. So, I mean, it's definitely been a lot of trial and error. I thought it was a lot easier than what it was going to be, but
Usually the case, right?
yeah. But finally got it figured out.
Well, do shameless plug, man. Tell us about what you got going on since you're, bringing them to market and whatnot.
Yeah, chum glides. I have a 7.5 inch and 2.5 ounce glide bait. It's called the Butcher. And then I got a brand new mold I just poured up over there. I just poured the first bait before I hopped on here. And it's a smaller one. I actually sold a few of them last year and then kind of put things to a halt for a little bit because I thought I could make it better. So a couple months later, I'm finally ready to get those baits going again. Had to revisit some weighting and the swim of it and everything. But yeah, just getting up making as many as I can at a time, and I outsource the paint jobs on them to a guy that does a really good job. And once I get batches done, I post them up, and the last batch I posted went pretty quick, so it's pretty awesome.
Where can
swim baits on Saturday?
What's that?
Do you still any swim baits on Saturday?
Yeah, tried in the morning for the first hour and a half. I was throwing some moving baits and the glide, and nothing was happening. Then every once in a while, I'd see a spot where I think a big one should be sitting, and I'd throw the glide over it. But I never had anything. If I'd have just one fish follow it, I would have threw it a lot more. But I know a couple guys caught. I think Lance caught one on a glide. That Danny Lee, he caught his 19 and a quarter on a forget what he caught on. It's a glide though.
I did throw a mag draft and a Chad for a while, just when I was trying to get rid of that 13, when that bite kind of died off. My bite kind of died off after a while, so I was trying a few different things, but I didn't get any. That was so muddy where I was at, you wouldn't have seen any followers anyway. But
yeah. The one Lance caught, he caught it on the Spro Chad. He was in some muddy water.
Kidding.
Mm-hmm.
I tried.
Yeah. Yep. Usually, especially in that clear water, pretty quick if it's gonna be the deal or not. It's pretty much last year what I did every tournament. I just threw big baits and glides every tournament. This year, I'm like, I'm gonna try to switch things up.
It's pretty cool. You guys making your own baits and whatnot. Seems like every winter, halfway through the time, I'm like, why haven't I got into this? Like pouring my own stuff or making my own baits. But I guess maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I'm not experienced enough to do it yet. But it seems like it's a lot of fun for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I had zero idea what I was doing. I just started buying stuff and trying. I had no idea you even had to lighten up the resin. I poured the first bait ever and dropped to the bottom of the lake like a rock. Yeah. Then I finally got it weighted in the tank right, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be perfect. Swam it, and it was cycloning through the water. So definitely a lot of learning.
Troy, if someone came to you and asked you, like, what kind of bait should they start making, or what would be something easy to get into, what would you recommend?
I don't know. Like I said, the jigs are pretty straightforward. I mean, there's the initial investment of buying the molds and finding the hooks that you like and making the skirts or buying skirts, however you want to do it. I've played around some different types of powder paints and stuff to find kind of the deal that I like. So there's initial kind of investment and research there, even though most of it's already laid out there for you as far as those go. But still, I mean, there's 100 different hooks that you can use, different price points and stuff. And so, yeah, it's just a matter of experimenting around. But I think the jigs are pretty straightforward. I think it depends too on what you're going to throw a lot. Like I said, I started with just buying blanks, doing the crankbait thing. Bought a bunch of blanks online, and I've still got all different kinds of blanks out in the garage that I haven't painted up yet. I got, but again, there you've got the investment of an airbrush and all that stuff to go with it. So I don't know, just some basic jigs I think is probably the best thing. I know a lot of people I haven't done the soft plastic thing yet. I keep thinking I'm going to get myself a couple molds and start making some soft plastics too, but it's it's springtime now. It's too late for that.
Yeah.
It's fishing weather.
Yeah. Troy, where are you headed to next? What's your next tournament, man?
We got Big Hill next weekend. It'll be a Kansas Kayak Anglers and then Kansas Bass Nation, kind of a double dip event there. So I'll be fishing that next.
And that's this Saturday?
It's this next Saturday, so not this weekend, but the following weekend.
Following weekend, cool, man. How many guys you guys usually get in that KKA events?
I want to say it's usually around, it just depends on the event, but 30, 40, 50, depending on the event. Usually pretty good show out.
Mm-hmm. Tyler, what about you, man? Where are you headed to next? What's your next event?
My next one might not be till the River Series kicks off. I think it's like May 20th or something. Not 100% sure yet. I won't be making Truman the wife's birthday weekend. I'll be doing some fun events dealing with that, I'm sure.
Yeah, May 4th is the Truman event for MoYak, and that coincides with the All-American Classic as well. So I know the Classic is going on the 4th and 5th on Truman, and then actually I think it's the 3rd and 4th, and then I know the MoYak events that Saturday. So if you guys are qualified for that, but then MoYak, as far as next event, is this Sunday actually on Bull Shoals. They're doing Josh running a Sunday series as well. Should get some pretty good turnouts for those, just for Sunday events. I know, like me, I work Saturdays, so I can't take off every Saturday to go to a tournament and whatnot. But that Sunday event should be fun. So if you guys.
Seems like there's a lot of people asking for the Sunday series.
Yeah, there was a club here in Missouri that tried to run one last year, and I think it's a great idea because some guys like same as me. I've got Sundays and Mondays off, so why not go do a smaller event? And it's not so much a grind like the monthlies, but it's still another event that you can go fish and be on a lake and treat it like a live event. We're probably not going to have 100 guys like we would have a MoYak event, but it's good experience and time to get on the water and figure something out there. But yeah, that's going on this Sunday. What were you saying?
When I was fishing all the boat tournaments, most of the tournaments that I was doing were Sundays. It was just most of my free time was always on Sunday.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how those guys do it. Bull Shoals. I'm sure most of these Missouri lakes are pretty.
It's a long event too, ain't it?
It's a what?
It's long. It's a long day too, ain't it? Of fishing.
I think so. Let me look at this real quick.
I think
I got it pulled up here.
I think it's 6 to 6.
Yeah, so Bull Shoals is 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. So, I mean, even if you fish, a half day, you can still get out there, around noon and still have 7 hours to fish it. Looks like there's 7 guys signed up right now, but it'll be on Bull Shoals on Sunday. But $50 entry fee. So it should have some decent payouts depending on how many guys show up.
Yeah.
Troy, anybody want to shout out or say thanks to or anything like that, man?
Probably Kyle, because it was his decision to go fish up there. Kyle Sadras, like I said, that's what I was rooming with, so that definitely helped.
Kyle's good. Kyle's a good guy.
Yeah, and just the whole MoYak team. That was, it was a great run event. Joshua seemed to have everything under control, and it was a fun event.
Yeah, for sure. Josh and Troy do a great job, and working on sponsors and all that stuff too. It's been cool. It was nice having 4x4 beers there. I don't know if you guys had one of the beers, but I had one of those. I drank one of those pineapple ones, and I was like, "Oh, that's pineapple. It's not bad."
Yeah, they're pretty good. I had a few.
For sure. Tyler, what about you, man? Anybody you want to shout out or thanks to or anything like that?
I guess the wife let me head down there and fish all weekend. I told her I wasn't going to fish on Sunday, but being that I was sitting in first for the All-American, I was like, I kind of have to. No, she actually drove down to the lake and then hung out at the awards for a while and went and got dinner and stuff after, and then she headed back and I went and did some ramp camping. But and then shout out to Eco Fishing. Always take care of all my kayak needs.
Yeah, man. Is it time to upgrade that vibe yet, or are we still rolling with it?
It is. Once I get some stuff squared away with the new property I bought and get these house plans and everything lined up, then I'll be looking at or if I sell some more of these baits, then I'll be ready to jump in a new boat.
I remember when we
definitely wouldn't have minded being in a little bigger boat this weekend. Past weekend.
Yeah, but Sunday
was like
rough.
Yeah, Sunday I think it was pre-forecasted for like 20, 25 mile an hour gust, and I think it was like 40 almost. So it got pretty wild. And that Vibe Shearwater, I had the water rolling up over my legs. Rain gear.
Yeah, I remember we put that motor on there and I got you all set up and you called me that night and I was like, oh no, and you're like, man, this thing's freaking awesome. I'm so glad I put that motor on. I was like just relieved, but it's cool seeing you out there doing well. Even, I mean, the vibes are great kayaks. They're definitely not meant for lake stuff, but it seems like it's working out for you.
Yeah, ain't too bad. I think there's another guy that had a Vibe Shearwater, and he's the one guy that dumped it this weekend. And I think it was actually the same guy that dumped it in the Big Bass 250.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, because I was talking to him. He's like, man, I dumped it back in the Big Bass 250. I was like, this ramp? Because I had somebody dump it too. He's like, no, I was the other guy that dumped it. And I came back after the day. I was talking to everybody else. I'm like, where's the other guy in the Shearwater? He's like, oh, he went overboard. I was like, oh man. And
That's
he had dual graphs and 100 rods on there. So I'm sure he wasn't hurting after that one.
Troy, what are you fishing out of, man?
I've got a Hobie Outback, 2019 Hobie Outback that I have beat the crap out of over the last several seasons, and keep thinking I'm going to upgrade. I just keep plugging away with it. I will say that was the first time I'd been by the Eco Fishing shop, and it was very impressive. And it's not far from my in-laws' condo, so I will definitely be going by there to pick up some kayak needs. I wish I'd have known about it the day before. Actually, I wish I'd known if they were open or not, because I got all the way down there and realized I didn't have my light/flag pole, so I had to run and pick one of those up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to shout out. There was another guy at my boat ramp. I never caught his name. I put my 360 light on, turned it on. By the time I took off, it was going so dim it was almost dead. And he threw me some little white lights that I strapped to the top up there. He's like, in case you catch the winning bag, I don't need to get disqualified.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to have to report you.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out who it was, and I was going to pay it back, but can't figure out who it was.
That's cool, man. Yeah, for sure. Same as Splug. Like, Eco's there in Lake of the Ozarks, Hamilton. We do a bunch of kayaks, bunch of stuff. We'll do the Big Bass 250 later this year. That I think last year we gave away $50,000 worth of just door prizes. So, not to mention, $10,000 for Big Bass, and then depending on how many guys sign up, I think that's another $2,000 to $3,000 depending on how many guys sign up. But plan on doing that this year again. Troy, have you fished the Big Bass 250?
I have not.
Man, where you been, man?
I know, right? Might jump in it this year, though.
Yeah, for sure, man. No, it's a good time. And honestly, I think don't hold me to. I know Chris fished. He talked about fishing the Grabois area in the fall. I'm sure Dorman was around that area too, but it seems like that Grabois area is really good.
Yeah, that's pretty much my core area. My parents had a lake house right there on the Gravois. I grew up pretty much my whole life going down there and fishing that whole area, so very comfortable and familiar with there. From there to the dam, Gravois to the dam. It's kind of my main where I'm at.
Well, cool, guys. I appreciate you guys jumping on here and hanging out and talking fishing. Guys, like I said, Sunday series starts on Bull Shoals this Sunday. And then the next live event for MoYak is May 4th on Truman. Coincides with the All-American Kayak Classic. So if you're looking to double dip or if you qualify for that. If you didn't qualify, check with Josh. I know there's been some roll downs and whatnot. So I'm sure he's, he may. And I think, I know the last 2 years, I think he had a qualifying day before. And I don't know if he's doing that again or not. But, if you're interested in doing two tournaments that weekend, you guys can check out, talk to Josh, figure out all that. But guys, seriously, appreciate you guys jumping on here and talking to us. And then, I hope you guys have a good season and all that. And look forward to see you guys later on in the year, man.
You bet.
For
Thanks,
sure,
man.
Thank you.